Hello and welcome to another edition of the Public Affairs in Practice podcast. In this edition, I'm going to look at the 5 challenges all Labour election candidates must be prepared for. To be honest with you, I think these are probably challenges that any candidate for elections should adhere to. And this is based on a piece that I wrote with Scott Goodstein of Catalyst Communications in the States and was published recently in LabourList. So, with the Prime Minister seemingly having committed to a general election in the UK taking place in the second half of 2024, candidates need to make the most of the limited time available to prepare themselves. Now, the first thing to emphasise is that a working assumption is not the same thing as a guarantee, so we can't guarantee the timing of a general election. And certainly the Prime Minister hasn't ruled out a May 2024 election, so any preparations need to have this vagueness in timing absolutely in mind. So no one should really delay in preparing themselves. And each candidate for office needs to think about their winning equation. And I think that involves a mix of 3 critical variables which are applicable to all political campaigns. And they are time, people and money. Now, of course, all Labour candidates, and those standing for other parties as well, require a deep understanding of the political landscape and effective communication strategies. Now, some candidates are products of the local areas. They know them well and they're well entrenched in that local party machinery. But preparation is the key, especially as time is limited. So Scott and I decided to come up with sort of 5 crucial challenges which every Labour candidate, but those from other parties as well, should be prepared for in creating their own winning scenario. So first up is know why you are running. It's important to craft a compelling narrative. It may be the party name that dominates for some voters, but the reality is that voting for the same political party is a thing of the past. We don't stick to those old traditions in the way that we used to. So as we've seen in the US, there's a need to develop a clear and authentic personal story that connects with local voters. That means being able to craft a core message that seeps throughout every aspect of a campaign. In other words, what is the unique narrative that differentiates you as the candidate from other candidates? Now, this story has to be believable, credible, memorable and authentic. A candidate needs to spend real time on this step, as any narrative that smacks of being too pre-packaged will simply not work. Second up, they need to develop a finance plan and budget, and that needs to be done as a matter of urgency. And it can be ever so tempting to move ahead quickly with a campaign, publishing materials and getting a social media presence quickly as possible. But understanding the rules of the game, navigating campaign finance regulations and mapping out finances should be an early task. Be aware of spending limits, reporting requirements and donation regulations. And if in any doubt about what you can and can't do, then seek advice. If not, then you and those doing your reporting will get into trouble with both civil and maybe even criminal penalties. It would be potentially career-threatening, career-ending, ending that career before it's even got going. Next up is understanding your audience. Now, getting to the heart of the key constituencies needed to win your specific region or area constituency is a critical step. Knowing the demographics, the values, the concerns, the key groups and the individuals helps in becoming a part of any community. Even if the scale of the task for winning could seem insurmountable, a candidate could be laying the foundations for future success. So it might not help you, but it might help those coming in successive elections or successor elections. And given the current polls, frankly, who knows what could happen. Now, this means tailoring the message delivered so that they resonate with that local population. So this is not about rigid message discipline, but instead recognising the diversity within a community and addressing the needs of those communities. Get to grips with the history of local issues, what the position of others is, and where the discussions take place. So forums, in-person meetings, discussion groups, whatever. There's often a need for a national position to be taken, of course, but the more local you can be, the better. Then you have to master digital communication. Now, social media fashions have changed from when we first logged on over a decade ago, and there's no getting away from embracing digital platforms for effective communication. Now, for any candidate, that means developing a robust online presence, engaging with voters on social media and leveraging data analytics, even at a local level, for targeted outreach. All that needs to happen well before an election, otherwise the community you're trying to engage with won't be on the same channels. There is also a need to consider how to respond as well. Consider whether the X or Twitter of a 2024 election is any better at controlling bots and the spread of fake news and hate speech than the Twitter of 2019. Mastering digital communication also means knowing how to respond to such misinformation. Help and advice will doubtless be available from the excellent digital team and others in the party, so the Labour Party and whichever party you're looking to run for, but they will increasingly be stretched and the resources available to help individual candidates diminishes, especially in an election campaign proper. And that means if you're not in a target seat, that will be even more of a problem for you. Then you need to think about those building of a strong grassroots campaign. Establishing a strong, solid grassroots campaign to connect with voters on a personal level, based around your narrative, remains at the heart of preparation. Door-to-door canvassing, meetings and community engagement are essential, but so is activity on hyperlocal social media sites. The power of the local activist base should never be underestimated here. Some may be prepared to stay indoors and post on such groups, and that can be just as useful as any door knocking. And every candidate really has a role to play in preparing Labour's campaign, as for other parties as well. Now, the PM's apparent announcement may have been designed to try and buy him and the Conservative Party more time to turn around the polls, but it does open up more preparation time. And don't forget, if a Labour candidate does not necessarily grasp that opportunity, then the competition certainly will. Now, winning an election is all about getting the right mix of time, people, money, messages and messengers as well. The Labour Party has time to prepare a winning campaign, but each candidate needs to recognise their own role and responsibility in preparing to win as well. Thank you to Scott for helping pull this article together, and you'll find a link to the original piece in LabourList in the show notes.